Here's the deal. Sales isn't about pushing harder, talking better, or flooding inboxes. That's noise, not strategy. Real business development? It's about presence, precision, and knowing exactly how the room feels before you open your mouth. Jake Stahl, author of Own the Room, How to Communicate to Be Seen, Heard, and Respected, has spent over 30 years training teams across 6 countries and 47 states, teaching solopreneurs how to turn conversations into conversion. Known as the mind mechanic, people who have been trained by him say he has the uncanny ability to break down human behavior and rebuild it into real, repeatable influence. This is where communication becomes your unfair advantage. Welcome to Own the Room with Jake Stahl.
Jake, it's one of my favorite times of year. The NFL playoffs are here. The college football playoffs are here. How do we even get any work done?
I know. I am watching them with bated breath. Even teams I've never followed, I'm like watching their games intently. So I'm with you. Great time of year.
Sometimes that's the most interesting part of it. It's seeing these teams that we haven't watched all year. And one thing I especially have noticed lately, and I've been watching lately, is how the coach impacts the team. And this reminded me of your latest newsletter. We're talking about being calm under pressure, because a lot of these coaches, they react so emotionally. I mean, how is your team supposed to keep it together when your coach is an emotional mess? But then other coaches, they're just kind of chill, almost like nothing's going to bother them. I can imagine that has an impact on the culture in that locker room and how that team performs.
Yeah, I'll tell you, my wife's a Steelers fan, and I forget the name of the head coach for the Steelers, but
Mike Tomlin, yeah.
They've been playing miserable.
Yeah.
And Tomlin never shows an emotion.
Yeah.
He is just this placid pool of calmness. And yet you look at somebody like Sean McVay from the Rams, and that guy is an emotional maelstrom the whole game. So it's kind of funny, but that translates to the team.
Yeah.
And John, who's the football team that you follow? Do you follow a pro team or just college?
The Syracuse Orange. No.
Well, of course, I knew that. But...
I guess it would be the Buffalo Bills.
Okay. All right. So how's their coach?
Pretty calm for the most part. More Tomlin-esque than McVay-esque. And sure enough, they've been quite successful in recent years. So I'd like to think that has something to do with it.
Yeah. No, I think it does. And for the listeners who aren't, they always say don't do a sports analogy because you're not going to hit everybody.
True.
Let's translate this to a kid's analogy, because we all know parents who have kids.
Yeah.
And John, you've seen it. The kid that comes running down the hill and trips and falls and scrapes their knee. And the first thing they do is look up. And they look up to see how the parents are going to react. And what you see religiously is that if the parent doesn't react adversely, if the parent's like, you're okay, everything's fine, most of the time, unless it's really a terrible, terrible fall, most of the time the kids get up and they're like, okay, I got this. I can go run and play again. But John, what happens when the parents get worked up? They start to cry, they run over, they pick them up.
It's almost like the child feels something completely different when the parent reacts a different way. It's the same pain from the fall, but it's a totally different reaction depending on how that parent reacts. I have seen that before.
Yeah, and this all has to do, again, with mirror neurons, right? We look at how somebody else reacts to gauge how we should react. And even as adults, we do this.
Yeah.
You see it all the time. There's incidences. I remember years ago reading about a mugging that took place in New York.
Yep.
And this person was being mugged, and an entire crowd stood around and just watched them being mugged. But everybody looks around and judges, how should I react based on how everybody else is reacting?
So there is also that groupthink element of it too.
Yeah, for sure.
Probably even magnified when you're talking about somebody in a leadership position or a position of authority, a parent, a football head coach. These are people we're looking up to, which just makes their behavior all the more important.
Yeah. And if as a child, You do something wrong, you look to the parent right away and you judge. Should I be scared? Are they angry that I did something
Mhm,
wrong?
mhm.
Or do they appear calm and forgiving so I know that I'm going to be okay? So we're always judging the way we should react compared to other people or baseline benchmark people in a scenario.
So our solopreneur audience, they're thinking, well, when am I ever under pressure?
Yeah. So, and this is a big thing. When there's a couple of scenarios the solopreneur needs to be really careful. The first is looking at social media and looking at LinkedIn.
Hmm.
It's so easy to look and see quote unquote successes everybody else is having. I
Yeah.
just closed a contract. I only have one opening left. Here's a great client that I just had in a review. It's easy for us as solopreneurs to judge what's going on there and to base our feelings on that,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Oh, all the time. It's that famous comparison. I do it on LinkedIn with professional successes, and then you do it on Instagram with personal successes. Look at the vacation they just took. Look at their body. I
Yeah.
have what's called, I guess they call it a beer belly now. All these people don't have that. So it's the famous comparison thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And we tend to lose our ability to think rationally when we're comparing ourselves to an ideal because we
Right.
think we should be doing this and I should be keeping up with the Joneses. And then, John, there's the other scenario that takes place. And this is kind of where the other piece of calmness needs to set in for us is when we're talking to a client and the client is worked up or they're upset or they're pushing us for a lower price. It's easy for us to respond to that pressure and give in when we feel that pressure get too hot. Right?
Mhm.
John, how many times have you named a price with somebody and you heard a pause or you felt them push back and you're like, but I could change that,
Yeah.
but we could
Oh,
work something out.
all the time. This is really hitting me where it hurts because that is so relatable as a solopreneur. You name a price and you're like, oh, that was the wrong one. And you just want to go and lower it because you think that's the objection, right?
Yeah. And here's the conundrum. So let's say you have a client on the other end of the phone and you say my fees are 2,500 and they're like, done. And then your mind is thinking, crap, I could have asked for more. This guy
Yes.
just automatically said done. So then we doubt ourselves again, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's easy as solopreneurs for us to go through this. So one thing we need to do is we need to look at our calmness factor because how calm we are, just like the parent, just like the coach, is going to translate into how calm everybody else is.
Yes.
So if I come into a conversation, and we address this in the book, Own the Room, if we come into a conversation and we're wired and we're stressed and we're just bleeding desperation because we need this contract in order to pay the bills,
Yeah.
it's going to show up in our conversation with the other person.
That's the crazy thing because we don't think that does. We think that's something that we're hiding inside, but how often can the other person actually tell?
Yeah. And it's funny you say that because we think we're performing well, but the other person can read us better than we can perform,
Ooh, interesting.
right?
Tell me more about that.
Well, how many times have you said to somebody, and this is big in relationships, you say to your partner, "What's wrong?" And they go, "Nothing." And it's
All
like,
the time.
"Oh, I know there's something wrong." "No, no, I'm fine." And it's like, "Oh, so we're going to go through this." So people tend to not perform as well as they think they do. So there's a
Wow.
lot to be
Yeah.
said for that calmness.
That is so cool that you just uncovered that because that is so relatable to us and literally daily. My wife and I will have that happen where it's like, "Oh, no, there's nothing wrong," because you don't wanna, it's really not a big deal, right? It's not a big, and then I'll start to get upset, "There's nothing wrong," and then it starts to something starts to become wrong, and so, we're really deep down, she's seeing that there is something wrong or vice versa, right? I'm seeing that in her. So it's a fascinating thing. I didn't know that was such a common universal experience.
Yeah, and it's funny, I remember when I was a kid, I would say to my mom, "I hate when you yell at me," and she'd be like, "I'm not yelling at you." It's
Yeah.
like, "Ooh, kinda sounds like you are."
Oh, man, yeah.
But heading back to how this affects our business is we have to understand that any of our anxiety or any of our calmness is gonna show through to the other people.
Yes.
And if we go back to, I'm sure we can all relate to this, there was a time when we really screwed up. And much to our surprise, a person we respected said, "Don't worry about it. You're fine.
Yeah.
Learn from this. You're going to be okay." And the first thing your brain says is, "Wow, that was okay." Oh, thank God.
Mhm. That
Because,
psychological safety is kicks in immediately just based on how the other person reacted. Nothing changed about the mistake.
right. And the hard part of that is most of us are expecting us to screw up and somebody to go, "You should have known better. You
Mhm.
screwed up.
Yeah.
Don't do that again." And our brain is wired to respond to the way other people are reacting to us.
Yes. Yeah. It
So
makes sense.
let's talk about this in two other terms before we talk about how to solve this.
Mhm.
Is people who address a room, whether you're a presenter in a board meeting or you're a public speaker, you can easily get defensive if somebody comes at you. And you can easily get angry if somebody comes at you. But at the same time, you get happy when people applause. So you're still reacting to the others. But now another factor comes into play is people are judging you based on how you respond. So
Mm.
let's say you have somebody in a boardroom or somebody in an audience that gets upset or challenges you openly. Now, it's not just about the way you react. You're now telling the audience how calm or how reactive you're going to be. And they're going to judge your performance the rest of the way based on that.
Yes. Exactly, and so it works both ways.
Correct. So if I get challenged by somebody in a boardroom or on a phone call, and there's 10 people in that call, they're either going to see me react and they're going to see something happen between the two of us, or they're going to see I stayed calm. And then people may even shift and start thinking, "Hey, that guy that was aggressive, why did he do that?
Mm.
Jake stayed calm. He didn't do anything wrong."
Uncharacteristic of you.
Right.
Yeah.
So, the foundation of this episode, John, is I just want to talk about the importance of being able to ground yourself and stay calm in situations like this because it's going to reflect on the other people, whether you wanted to or not. And the impression of you they take away is going to be the impression they talk about when they talk to other people.
This is one of the big mysteries with this because you're talking about staying calm. Oh, he didn't get all riled up. That's great. But it feels like to us, this deeply ingrained thing, maybe as men too, that there's something strong about getting up there and you talk about commanding the room, maybe raising your voice, being that leader that just cuts through all of the noise in the room. But you're saying that stillness, softness, calmness is stronger than added volume and added strength.
Correct.
It's counterintuitive.
It is counterintuitive. And when I say you shouldn't get loud or have volume, it's not the volume that matters. It's the emotion behind the volume.
Mm.
You know, those of us who have heard a Martin Luther King talk
Yes.
know that he gets very high in volume and very passionate, but it's the emotion that he has. His words are calming. His words dig into your emotions and make you feel good listening to him. On the contrary, if you get somebody that's loud and angry, it gives a completely different impression. So there's nothing wrong with volume. It's what's behind the volume that matters. You can be loud, but calm.
Okay.
There you go.
I think as far as strata is concerned, this reminds me of that signal piece. Like, what signal are you
Yeah.
giving off? Because a lot of times, someone comes in and they're flustered and they're maybe trying to prove a point, and
Yeah.
it's like, gee, you're giving off kind of a desperate signal. You talked about that earlier, so I'm guessing this ties into what we talk about all the time with strata.
Yeah, it does. And so to set off that calm signal, there's some things that you really want to do to make sure that they're picking up a calmness about you or a certainty about you that they can, quote unquote, take home with them, that they can wrap themselves in and feel calm about. Because your stillness really becomes a magnetic force for people. And that is really the heart of influence, is
Yes.
when people want to listen to you because of your presence.
Makes sense. All right, so what are some of these things that we got to keep in mind?
All right. So the first one is breathe deep, take time to breathe. Many times when we're stressed out or we get emotional, our respiration rate goes up. We tend to get shallower breaths and we get almost into a hyperventilation because our system goes into a fight or flight mode. And that's the way we're designed or built to react.
Yeah.
So if we can just take a second to calm and slow our pace and take a couple of deep breaths. And I don't mean going, I mean just relax it out.
Yeah.
Because
Don't make it
remember,
obvious.
right, exactly. Remember, as the speaker, you control the pace. If you pick up
Okay.
your pace, they're going to pick up theirs. But if they're going really quick and you slow down, most of the time they will slow down to meet your pace unconsciously.
Ooh, and they don't even know what they're doing. So that's even more effective.
Yep. In NLP, we call this pacing. So
Mhm.
we're matching their pace and then we're slowing ours down and they will follow.
I love all of the psychology and neurology behind breathing
Yeah.
when we talk about, anxiety and other things that deep breathing helps. It helps calm your body, the mindfulness. There's so much research behind it. Your breath is probably one of the greatest tools that you have in your control at any given time. And so I like how you start these 5 steps with breathing, taking some deep and slow breaths.
Yeah. And if you're heading into a rough audience,
Yeah.
you can do what they call box breathing. And for those people who don't know what box breathing is, it's 4, 4, 4, and 4. So you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, and hold the breath out for 4 seconds. So it's
Yes.
box breathing. And what that does is that actually calms down your limbic system. So it starts to reset your entire system. And you can do this anytime in the middle of the day. They say 2 or 3 minutes of box breathing. It literally resets your blood pressure. It drops your pulse. So do that when you're walking into a room. Now, granted, you can't interrupt a talk to do
Right.
box
Let
breathing.
me just do some deep breathing here. Yeah.
Right, exactly. But you can level set before you go in. And one of the key things I've done over the years, John, is if you're in the middle of a meeting and it's really heated, tell everybody to take a 5-minute break. All right, we're just going to take 5 minutes. We'll regroup, get a drink, take bio. During that time, box breathe it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And one quick tip on box breathing, too, just from personal experience.
Yeah.
Use a timer or an app or something, because when you're flustered, the number one tendency is to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you have to not 4 seconds. So use
Good
an actual
point.
timer or an app and actually force yourself to slow down. It's very, very effective. I can vouch for that. So that's cool, Jake. That's a good start, but box breathing alone won't change the situation. So
You're
let's
correct.
get to the second thing.
All right. So the second thing is what I call the 2-second rule. The 2-second rule says after somebody says something, pause for 2 seconds before you respond. What this does is it keeps you from just yelling back or getting upset back. It shows them that you're thinking about it and that you're being thoughtful. And it shows your brain it's okay to slow down, control the pace, and it lets you think things through a little bit. You know, because your first reaction is, oh my God. But if you have 2 seconds to think about it, sometimes it's like, okay, that wasn't bad. So it gives you time to gather your thoughts. It shows the other person you're listening, and it helps you control the tempo of the conversation.
Wow. So 2 seconds. I'm just watching the clock because people think, oh, 2 seconds, that's nothing. Give it 2 seconds. You know, people say, oh, give me 2 seconds, just colloquially, right? Like that's supposed to be nothing. But I mean, just sit here for a second. That was 2 seconds. Didn't
Right.
that feel like forever? Like it just I just want to fill that silence. I hate how silent that is and how long that feels, but it's just 2 seconds.
Yeah. And John, if you rewatch this, like for those of you watching this on YouTube, that 2 seconds wasn't long for us. That 2 seconds was actually pretty quick. But for you as a speaker, it feels like forever.
Oh, it felt long. I was like 4 times in the middle of that 2 seconds. I'm like, no, I forget this. Screw this illustration. I'm going to jump in.
Yeah, so it's important to understand, I'm glad you brought this up, that the 2 seconds for us feels a lot different than the 2 seconds does for the other person. And it's funny because this changes. They've done actually studies on this and found that people of European descent typically hate pauses that go up to like 4 seconds. They feel like they've got to fill the void. And yet our Asian counterparts sometimes go 8, 9, 10 seconds in the middle of a conversation, and it denotes respect in that they're listening.
Wow.
So it's even cultural, the whole pause thing. But do 2 seconds, practice it during a day, practice it in conversations with others, and then when you're in a meeting, it'll come as second nature.
Yeah, if I started practicing that with my wife, she'd be looking at me like, what is wrong with you? You sick? Are you okay?
She looked at you like that anyway, John.
Yeah.
All right. The third is try to keep your movements conservative. In other words, consciously relax. You know, you can tell when a speaker's nervous. Their pacing gets quicker, their speaking gets quicker, they start to tap a pen. Just remember that less body movement is more. So slow down, don't get fidgety. If you need to take that 5-minute break, do it. But your body's going to give away a lot more than your voice is. And your voice is already giving away a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And because we mentioned earlier how you can't fake it as well as they can read it. So
Right.
controlling your body. So for someone who gets really twitchy and fidgety like me, is there a strategy to like rein in your body and try to slow your movements and make them minimal?
If you have the ability to sit. And I love carrying like a fidget. Like I have this one at my desk. So
cool.
I can
Yeah.
just play with that. You can have it in your hands underneath the table. You can have it in a pocket, but it's a great way to release nervous energy. And John, when I present to people, like if I'm going to present to a group of 10, I will buy a bag of fidgets and bring it with me. So everybody has one. And then me using mine does not look odd.
Interesting.
And they're super cheap. You can find it on something like Trainer's Warehouse. You can get a bag of them. You get a bag of like 60 of them for $15. And so I always keep some on hand. And when I present to a group, I give it out to everybody. That way, if I fidget, I'm just doing what everybody else is doing. And they love it. If their hands are busy, their brains are engaged.
I wish you would have told my old high school that, because back when I was in high school, there was a big trend in the world of fidget toys. I feel
Yep.
like that became a huge trend. Those were my high school years, and we had those little things, there was a circle in the middle, and you had the things around it, and people would just spin it, and that would be the fidget toy, right? And so they went around school like wildfire because it was the thing to do. And
Yeah.
eventually, apparently, they got so distracting that they banned them in school. And then they found that they actually weren't all that distracting, and maybe they were even helping. So they unbanned them, and now you can have fidget toys in school. Long story short, but if they would have known the power of being able to do that to keep your brain busy, they might not have thought that this was something that needed to be banned.
Yeah, and I would argue that, an audience of teens is going to be different than an audience of adults when it comes to using a fidget toy, but yeah, it's well known that if you can keep the hands busy, the brain can stay more occupied on the topic at hand.
Very
So,
interesting.
buy fidget toys, people, they work.
There we go. I didn't know that was going to be part of this discussion, but okay, there you go. There's point number 3. How about our
Yeah.
fourth point here?
Fourth point is use a low, steady tone. So, in order to get calmness, you need to portray calmness. I'm not saying don't have inflection. I'm not saying be monotone. I'm saying try not to get too far out on any of the edges. Many speakers are taught, yeah, motivate it out, yell, get them clapping. That works great for some of the audiences, but for others, it's not the thing, right? At a motivational talk, it's going to be great. But if you're in a board meeting or you're in a Zoom meeting, you're not going to be able to have that. And attacking people with a super positive attitude when they don't come in with one is probably not the best way to go. So try to stay calm, portray the demeanor you want your audience to have,
Why a low voice?
because that tends to speak to your calmness. Now, I'm not saying go really low and, try to get baritone, but don't get too emotional. Don't get too high in your pitch. Just try to talk as if you were trying to talk to a friend who was upset.
Okay. Now I'm going to be self-conscious about this now and see, since I, do voiceover on the side, how low can I go? But no, it's like you're saying, it's more about the posture than the actual pitch. But oftentimes when we get more calm, we do feel our voices drop. And I've noticed that because when we get flustered and we get like all excited about something in a good or bad way, then all of a sudden like our pitch starts to go up. So you're just saying follow that. Let the pitch come naturally. Don't force it, but follow what feels calmer.
Yeah, and portray what you want them to be. So if I
Mhm.
want them to be a calm audience and listen, I need to be a calm presenter. If
True.
I'm a motivational speaker and I want the audience to get riled up, then I want to be riled up on stage, but try to put out what you want to get back.
This is like a public speaking masterclass as well. I mean, I know it's about owning the room and
Yeah.
solopreneurs in these stressful situations, with probably a smaller group of people, but you can apply everything we're talking about to a large audience too.
Yes, you can. That's
So
exactly right.
you're speaking in front of 500 people. Do these things too. This is brilliant.
And then the last piece of the puzzle, John, piece number 5, is do your best to maintain eye contact. I'm not saying stare them down or look in their eyes and never look away, but the more you look away, the more uncertainty you show. So when we speak to someone, try to address them, try to keep intentional eye contact without being like you're trying to mesmerize them or you're trying to stare them down. But eye contact shows respect and it shows that you're not backing down. And it gives that sense of calmness and steadiness that they're going to latch onto.
Yeah. Interesting. This is easier in person, by the way, I feel like. I mean, can you you
Yes.
can you can keep eye contact on a virtual call, right? But you're not really always looking at their eyes. Sometimes you
Right.
have to look at the camera to make sure he feels like you're making eye contact. So easier in person.
Yes. And even if you're not looking at the camera, people can see that you're looking directly into the screen. So if you're not looking away or looking around, you're giving the
True.
same intention as in-person eye contact.
True. And what does that do for someone when they see you're making eye contact?
It instills confidence
Okay.
because when you look away, you give the impression of being uncertain. I mean, imagine if you're asking somebody for advice on, getting out of a tough situation and they keep looking away or looking down or maybe looking up in the air. It gives you uncertainty.
Mm. Yeah, it does. And then it's like, wait, are they listening? Are they, hello? Are you there?
Right.
That is an uncomfortable thing. And then it kind of just makes you feel like crap, not going to lie.
Yeah, and it's funny. I don't know if you saw the latest commercials, but they have commercials now where they have a substitute person come into a
Oh,
a
yeah.
scenario. So there's one where a girl's sitting there and she's talking about a relationship, and the other girlfriend's sitting looking on her phone and not paying attention. Same type of thing. You're given the impression of not paying attention.
Those are the ones with like backup quarterbacks,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
exactly.
that's funny. Those are brilliantly done. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because the person who's texting while the girlfriend is talking, she's like, "You're out. So and so, you're in." And the first thing he does is sit down, look right into her eyes, and say, "Go." So he's showing her that the eye contact is everything. For those of you who haven't seen these commercials, they're fantastic. They're like substitute people in your life. They have a great one. I just saw it the other day where people are going through a drive-through and the person at the wheel is like, "We want fries. No, wait, we want chicken nuggets." And they're like, "You're out. So and so, you're in." And he comes in and gives a great order at the drive-through. Just great stuff.
I have seen it's the whole concept of wouldn't it be nice to have a backup in life?
Right.
Like football teams have backups when things don't go right. And then there's that one where the kids are taking a picture, right? And
Yep.
they're like, "Nope, you're out. You you have no idea how to smile for a picture." That cracks me up too, because isn't
Yeah.
that relatable when we have kids? So yeah, but that eye contact piece is what you're talking about from that. And that's something that it is intuitive for us because we see that commercial and we go, "Oh yeah, he's a better listener than the previous person was." But we most of us probably couldn't pinpoint right off the bat that it's because of the eye contact.
Yeah. Correct. So let's review the five. So the first one was breathe deeply, slow your pace. Steady rhythm is going to ground your presence. Second is pause before responding, right? The 2-second rule. So those brief moments increase your perceived thoughtfulness and authority. The third is keep your body relaxed but engaged. Try not to do a ton of unnecessary movements that show that you're nervous. The fourth one was use a low, steady tone. So your voice calmness influences the emotional state of your listeners. Last is maintain intentional eye contact. When you do that, you show confidence, you show that you're truly listening. Those five things will help you with your presence in front of another person, and it will help the calmness transfer to them so everybody is on the same page, they're thinking the same way, and they're confident in what you have to say.
Makes sense. So those five things, what happens when you do those five things?
So when you do those things, because the human brain seeks emotional regulation cues in others, stillness really calms the mirror neurons in your listeners. It then lowers the defenses, it creates openness. And when you remain calm, others mirror that calm, and that builds trust and influence almost effortlessly.
That is about owning the room and the signal you're giving off. Owning
Yeah.
the room with calmness. When I think of owning the room, I don't think that way. This is why we need a cultural shift in how we talk about owning rooms. Because I think about the person who walks in and is just like bossing everybody around and owning that room with authority,
Yeah.
not with actual influence, but with fear tactics.
Yeah. And that's dominating a room. You know,
Mm.
you look at two people, you think about the person that comes in and they yell and shout. People are full of fear in that scenario. So that's dominating a room. But did you ever have that person that you saw as a public speaker where they walked on stage, or if a person walked in a room during a meeting and everybody's like, oh my God, John's here. This is going to be great.
Oh,
And
yeah.
all of a sudden, it's just the whole room is ready for you. The room actually knows you're coming.
Yeah.
That's what Own the Room is all about.
Okay. And that actually is not achieved. You don't want to say, oh no, John's coming. Oh God, get your stuff together. No, you want it to be, oh, okay, good. John's coming. This is going to be good. Like
Yep.
that, you want people to have that kind of reaction. So the difference between owning the room and dominating the room, I love that distinction because in culture, we're still so ingrained to think that strength is authority and power and being able to lord that over others, when
Yeah.
you're saying it's actually stillness. Strength is controlling emotions, having that emotional regulation so that your audience can follow suit, kind of like that parent with the child who falls.
Yeah. And as a parting shot on this episode, because I know we're coming to the end, I just want to remind all the solopreneurs out there that your calmness needs to stay stable through everything. So if you're looking on LinkedIn and you're a consultant or you're a financial planner and you think, oh my God, everybody's doing better than me, take those breaths. Understand you're seeing one snippet of that person's life or business. And that doesn't mean that you're behind. Your best comparator is you from yesterday. Are you doing a little bit better than yesterday? Great. But to compare yourself to a constant ideal that's being put online or on LinkedIn, you're never going to get there. There's always going to be one person that shows a better lifestyle than you have, and they may not even be showing that. So keep it all in perspective. Stay calm. You're doing just fine.
Thanks for checking out Own the Room with Jake Stahl. If you've gotten value from this episode, share it with the solopreneur in your life who wants to know how to communicate to be seen, heard, and respected. Review and rate the show wherever you check out podcasts. And grab your copy of Own the Room, How to Communicate to be Seen, Heard, and Respected. We'll catch you next week on Own the Room.